Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the final match of the last chance qualifier for StarLadder and League StarSeries Season 3. We're onwards to finish up this entire thing. We're going to figure out who is going to be getting the last spot for the finals that are going to be taking place in Kiev in just about 10 days from the 9th of June to the 11th of June. Now in the finals of the last chance qualifier are Zalae and ThijsNL, also referred to as ThijsNL, or Colento. Pick your choice. That guy has been a very, very strong force in the Hearthstone scene for years now. Extremely strong player, widely recognized as one of the best, I think, for a long period of time. Zalae, very strong player, chooses to bring in this event one of the most aggressive lineups that we've seen. It paid off in the group stage, but he still ended up in the last chance qualifier with a 5-2 score in the group stage, which is extremely unlucky. I want to say it's really rare in these types of events that you have people with this type of score end up in the last chance qualifier, but he's had to make it through. However, based on the results that he's had in the last chance, which are 2 victories, it just goes to show that the consistency of the deck that he brought is definitely there to meet what his opponents are bringing. And Thijs lost to Zalae earlier. Maybe in this case we'll be maybe a little bit surprised if there's a reverse situation here and Thijs somehow finds a way to win against Zalae.
Yep, I mean you practically nailed it when it comes to the storyline from both Zalae and Thijs, and we already had seen this matchup between Zalae and Thijs in the past, so it didn't end up well for the Dutchman in general, and it's very similar to the previous matches we have seen with Xixo. What he needs to do is just get a really explosive hand with his rogue to get that win with that weakest link of his lineup, but at the same time, the Druid is not looking great either. The thing is, it's so hard to remove mass minions spawns like from Murloc, Paladin, like from the aggressive Druid. It's just so tough to deal with those minions all the time, over and over. So both Rogue and Druid are really not looking great.
Yeah, and that's really the big problem if you're looking at Thijs. You know, he ends up batting Pirate Warrior, but he's still left dealing with aggro Murloc. He's still left with dealing with the Quest Rogue, which you never want to really leave up unless you're targeting with aggro, and he's going to have to deal with aggro Druid anyway. So basically, no matter how you spin it, Thijs is basically pitting himself against 3 awful matchups, and you can see here from his reaction that this opening hand, while it can sometimes lead to good things, is unlikely to do so in this case. Now Zalae with the double War Leader opener with Blessing of Kings and Gentle Megasaur. If any of these guys sticks, that's just an auto win. We've seen this happen before. You need 1 target for Kings to survive, then you swing at that rogue's face repeatedly, and it's got no answers. It just takes repeated damage output.
Yeah, now Thijs has a difficult decision to make. He either goes for the Novice Engineer and Shadow Step, commits into making the quest with the Novice Engineer, which is not the worst thing to do when it comes to making a plan with this deck. Or the other option is to dagger up, attack for 1 into the Tidecaller setup at 2-turn, lethal for that minion. But the problem is there are a few ways for Zalae to play into that, because he can just coin out a War Leader, he can play Rockpool Hunter on Curve, or he can play Hydrologist and coin out a secret, which will be Redemption or Noble Sacrifice, or even Gateway Code on the last worst possible option. So getting the damage done would be very, very, let's say, risky.
Yeah, because you're never guaranteed to get the damage to stick. And now Zalae with the Corn War Leader opener gets to push 4 damage here with the Tidecaller. And honestly, with the second War Leader coming right up, unless Thijs picks up a Southsea Deckhand, this is looking extremely grim. And he picked up something to do at least. I was going to say, This is looking like he can't possibly catch up, but he found the right card at the right time. And this Southsea Deckhand will bail him out for at least 1 turn. That was a very fortunate timing on that Deckhand, man.
It is. I mean, not the first time we see that today, right?
Yeah, it's been saving rogues left and right. Some people have actually started cutting backstabs out of the Quest Rogue list for a while now, relying on those Southseas and Glacial Shards to keep them safe. But we've seen them re-included in the tournament. It seems like backstab is making its way back, since there's actually quite a bit of aggro, and you can polarize your matchups a bit further by having the backstabs in. Also happens to be an okay card against Styrian Forging if the turn lasts long. Marginal upside, but sometimes ends up changing the game.
All right, well. Still, the Tide Caller is still alive, right? That's still problematic.
Yeah, it's the fact that it's not getting killed. I mean, even if you make it a 2/2, you then have to kill it. The thing is, Zalae runs Cold Light Seers, Zalae runs Murloc War Leaders, Zalae runs just about everything you don't want to see, and Zalae will run a War Leader.
And the Hydro Beast. So
there's all the Murlocs.
Yeah, and Ty's is like, no, I didn't want to see that. That's even more damage. Oh, well, that's a blessing. So it unfortunately is turn 4. So if you go for the Glacier Shard, bounce Glacier Shard, you stop the damage from the Murlocs, but you open yourself to Truce of a Champion. Zalae doesn't play Consecration or Consecration, and what else? Nothing even more important than that. But I feel like the Glacier Shard here might have been huge swing.
He might still go for it. It's not. I mean, he might not double Glacial Shard, but he might at least use it once because it's not. It probably isn't his bounce target. Although to be fair, it's very tempting to keep it, for quest completion. But if you do that, I feel like you have to prep Mimic Pod to find the extra bouncers. Yeah. Which just doesn't seem like the game plan you've been setting yourself on, and the game may not last long enough that it matters. So.
Yeah, the prep probably will have to be kept for the quest. So Tyz wants to commit into bouncing that Novice Engineer here. Nah, but it's still rough. He would need to take 5 damage to the face right now.
And it looks like that's what he's going to opt for. Mitigate the most long-term damage. And to be honest, it might just be correct. It's mitigating quite a lot. Megasaur, not particularly useful. Blessing of Kings probably keeps your Murloc War Leader safe from just about anything but bounces. And that's the problem. Honestly, I don't even mind Megasaur just to set up another body.
The Megasaur... Wow. The Megasaur...
What happened there?
I was like, someone is manipulating his hand. Megasaur might actually give stealth as well. Which then gives you access for the Blessing of Kings next turn. So you push for 7 damage to the face. This is Sean Connery speaking. Which is one of the options. Plus 3 health is also not bad. So probably the Megasaur is the best option here. Zalae disagrees and goes for the Blessing of Kings.
He says, you want to get that bounce on the Glacial Shard? You want to do that? All right, then you got to stop questing on the Novice. You want to stop questing on the Novice? Be my guest. Be my guest. And Tyz is going to try to find himself a Shadow Step. Does he pick it up, though? He shakes his head. It's probably another Prep or Mimic Pod. Or,
Backstabs.
A backstab.
Not this matchup, bro. Not this matchup. I mean, not in the
would have been
this
good
stage.
Early game.
Yeah, exactly.
Now it's just a little bit clunky. I feel like he's going to be face tanking this like a champ.
Yeah, well, he cannot allow a Megazord to just kill him, right?
And now Zalae's on Truce over Champion win, right?
Yeah, but if Megazord would just give Wind Fury, that's GG. Exactly GG. Let's see what Zalae picks up. Is it a Truce of a Champion? No, but it is a Murloc, which can be buffed with the Chum this turn. That means we'll have 3 attack, which then can be played with the Megazord and give Wind Fury, or plus 3 attack. So what he needs to do...
Do we expect Outdoor Peacekeeper this turn, is my question? Like, do you go Chum Peacekeeper to set up Bluegill Mega? Okay.
Yes, I would love that to see. Otherwise, he would have to go Chum Hero Power and make some sense, because it's very easy to lose those wings, and he knows that there's a backstab in the hand. Because it was Mimic Podded, and I'm sure he was paying attention to which cards were being used, so he knows there's this second card. I mean, he actually knows the hand, because he knows it's Novice Engineer and Backstab. Because the Novice Engineer was bounced. So, if he gets the 1 damage in, he most likely will get lethal in the upcoming turn as well. Oh, this is actually a decent outcome as well. The stealth allows the Murloc to deal 2 damage next turn. That means he's at 5 with the Bluegill, or he has a target for the Spikered Steed.
Yeah, that's really the big upside, is that Spikered Steed sets up a guaranteed lethal, basically, because you're pushing for 4, and then Bluegill for 3 on the following turn. So the only way you lose is if they get 5/5 Bilefin Tide Hunters, which is extremely unlikely. So Zalae is setting up a kill with a Blue Gill Warrior that's almost guaranteed. It's a 2-turn lethal, and he just realizes that that's the safest way to make this happen. Prevents the rogue from daggering down your minion, and so the safety is ensured. And Thijs will be able to complete his quest if he doesn't die, but we know better. We've seen Zalae's game plan way ahead of time. We've got the caster vision. And as it turns out, we can predict that Spiker's Teeth comes down and Thijs just takes phase damage.
Yep. I mean,
the Grimscale Chum is crazy good with Blue Gill Warrior.
This is one of those matchups that actually count on Rogue winning it. So it's really tough to see this happening right now, especially if you play backsteps, right? And he knows there's another Murloc that was buffed by that Chum. Oh my god!
That's pretty sweet, but it's a bit late.
Yep.
We're gonna have to find a Bilefin, my friend. Bilefin would save him. Bilefin Tide Hunter. Oh, would it though? No, it wouldn't, because the minion just kills him off. But he's thinking, I can flame prep.
That's possible, and then he's able to kill
the Stegodon, but then there's no taunt, and he dies to Bluegill. Oh no!
No, he's actually
nice.
Not able to kill it.
Well, yeah, he can attack twice into it and then face tank the Stegodon, right?
He can't. Well, it will be at 1 HP. Yes, you're correct. Exactly.
Oh man, poor Thijs. He's gonna be heartbroken. How do we tell him? How do we tell Thijs?
Oh, he will get that information on his own in a few seconds.
Well, Quest Rogue will not find a win. Gets the quest completed, but it's not enough to just win the game. And now Thijs puts himself at 1 HP and says, whatever, man. You got it, you got it. You don't got it, you don't got it. I'm just jamming my quest and winning next turn if you don't kill me. And Zalae will show the top deck Bluegill for the tilt potential. Nice try, Thijs. You almost did it.
Yeah, the setup was good, but it wasn't good enough.
It was pretty powerful. Zalae could have just lost had the hands gone a tight bit differently. So overall, very well done by Thijs. This was a really tough hand, I think, to play with. It went very few places. Had to rely on the novice to bounce repeatedly and try to dig for those quest completers, and eventually found the Fireflies off of Mimic Pod set up for the Igneous turn, and then got the prep at the very last moment. It was a pretty cool turn from the Quest Rogue perspective, but Zalae had prepared it. And now Zalae on the Quest Rogue and Aggro Druid still has two favored matchups going up against, Thijs' lineup just overall. Aggro Druid versus Quest Rogue.
Zalae picks all the expensive cards in the opening hand, but fortunately for him, he can mulligan away all of those.
The other bad outcome would be leaving mana plus Teacher in the opening hand. But picks up one of the dream openers.
He just needs... basically what he needs is just buffs. Yeah. Right now. Mark of the Lotus would be the best. Let's see what he gets for the 10-1. It's a... That's not bad as well.
That's very reasonable. You get the thing is, if you play Hungry Crab and it doesn't live, then you run into the issue of Mark of Charge not being enabled. So Firefly is probably your play of choice.
You probably will not coin out anything. Oh, he actually coins out. Okay. I was thinking like Crab next turn with the Mark of Ishar is pretty decent, right? You get the coin draw. You get the draw. You get a big minion on the board already. The only problem is that he plays 2 Hungry Crabs. So there's an option to just get another one for that Murloc if there's gonna be played one by Thijs. But I'm not sure about it. All right, there's the Hydra. A little bit early to the party.
Still a very good card long term. Zalae here with the Coin Firefly actually set up a world where the rogue never gets time to play the quest. They have to dagger up because they're under too much pressure to really justify slowing down. So there are worlds where the quest rogue just goes Caverns Below, and then they play, South Sea Deckhand, trade patches away with a Firefly hit, and suddenly you're the one maybe running to that quest. But if you never let them get the quest online until, it's an awkward turn, you're pretty bad off. Plus, if you force the dagger, you've got Bloodsail Corsair, which slows them down even further. which is also a fantastic tempo play in these early stages where it's all about small minion battle.
Yep.
So, very, very good setup so far for Zalae. He's doing what he wants to do with his deck. And he's going to set up that crab.
That mark of the charge. Exactly. Shadow Step. Ooh, okay. Thijs is going places as well, but it's not good enough yet. What do you think about Mimic Pod this turn? You can't really do much about those minions, right? I mean, you can use the hero power to kill one and then sacrifice the boar to kill another one to play around the buffs. Stonta's boar doesn't really give you much value until the point of quest completion, so it might be more valuable just to use it as a removal right now when it's able to actually kill anything, because that translates into multiple damage over the course of the entire game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the fact that you're mitigating so much damage with the boar here would have made me want to play it. And then you get a really awkward turn 4 with something like, Quest Mimic Pod. In this case, though, you're getting your dagger charge, so at the end of the day, it still kind of evens out, where you're taking a bit more damage if there's a buff. Say on the patches, gets buffed up to 2/2 with a board-wide buff, but at least you're able to get that quest online a bit earlier, depending on what you draw. Things may change. In this case, not really relevant, as the only buff that comes down is going to be on the crab. But it could have been a big deal here.
Mm-hmm.
So, no quest completion in sight. Flame Elemental into Bounce, into Flame Elemental, into Shadow Step. That's the closest you're getting.
Has to be Mimic Pod.
Yeah. If it's a prep or Biofit. Ooh. Okay.
Okay, well, the quest can be completed now.
This is a fantastic card. For his deck against what Zalae is running, it doesn't get much better than Biofin against aggro if you're able to...
Okay, so let's think about it. How do you complete the quest in this case? If you play 2 Biofins next turn, you need to Shadow Step 1. That's not the ideal scenario. Although you will have 2 minions that can give you some health. In this case, it's just 1 or 2. Other than that, you can also play 1 Biofin and a Panda Brewmaster. And then you will have 4 and... What about the prep? That's really hard to do. Because if you just replay 2 Biofins, next turn you Shadow Step it, you keep the last one in your hand. So for turn 7, you can complete the quest and drop the Biofin. But at the same time, Thijs will most likely have to commit to Shadow Step on turn 6.
Which means that he's not going to be able to get all the mana that he needs to do.
Exactly. So
completion.
That changes the entire setup. So he goes for just to complete the quest this turn, right? Sets up a board that will soak up some of the damage, because his opponent will know that if he doesn't trade, his minions will die next turn, and that will buy some time for Thijs, so he can Shadow Step next turn into Biofin quest. And that setup's a taunt. That is a 5/5. It's pretty difficult to deal with. And I would say that's a really decent plan. As you can see, the Quest Rogue is actually the most complicated deck to play.
It is, yeah, and people keep saying, oh, it's a brain dead deck, and we look at these situations, and the truth is that even though the outs, they're not that many of them, you're still insta-dead to Savage Roar and whatnot, you still have to set up those board stays are winning, and against aggro, that's where I think the skill test for the deck becomes even more prevalent or obvious. When the mid-range Paladin gets explosive openers, or when the aggro Druid just runs you over with small minions, and you don't pick up your backstabs, that's when you're tested. And this is exactly one of these tests, where you see how much thinking has to be, is involved, and he did have to get the right draw, off of a Mimic Pod to stand a chance, and it's going to come down, I think, to those draws later in the game. But even if he finds the right cards, it's still a lopsided matchup, as we can see here. Thijs would need a Vanish to reset this, which he does have. So it buys him an extra turn with the double Elemental.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually think with the amount of options you've got, which is effectively none.
It's just too bad that he can't kill the Hungry Crab before he vanishes.
I wonder.
That's the one thing that makes it super awkward. Because he knows that when he plays Balfin next turn, the 5/5 will die because of the Hungry Crab. Unless Zalae would actually replay it next turn, because he doesn't know there's already a Balfin in the hand. Alright, that was the Vanish on turn 6. Now let's see, this is a very important decision by Zalae. If he plays the Hungry Crab or not. I feel like there's no reason to. He has access to 6 mana.
Probably not. I mean, you can just get yourself an extra 5/5 off the board with it, right? So...
Yeah, I mean, Fledgling and 3 1-drops is looking really great. I mean, in this situation, your opponent will need to respond to the Fledgling. If not, that might spell Doom. So even if Thijs goes for the Quest and Bilefin, he might actually go for, instead of the Bilefin, he might actually go for the Stuntas board just to kill the Fledgling.
Yeah, just to smash himself into it, but...
Yeah.
I mean, he
But
needs
it's
a
not
prep.
terrible.
Would prep be the best draw in his deck, basically?
Wait, what I'm talking about? He still can't complete the quest. Jesus Christ.
No, he still can't do it on its own. He needs to pick up a prep off like a novice or off the draw.
Well, he's on 3/4, right?
Oh
So,
man, second vanish, go.
second Vanish can win the game.
That's not it, unfortunately. But he could go novice into prep vanish, right? Technically, I mean,
That's possible, but now he will
if we're
pick
on
the
that
quest
game plan,
with the Flame Elemental. But then,
what?
man, this is so awkward. Like, if he just completes the quest and charges the Stunta Spore into the 1/2, because that's what you want to do. You don't want to give options to Power of the Wild or
Right, you-
Savage Roar.
You know, an innervate play no matter what wrecks you.
Yeah.
So you're effectively on the double Bilefin plan at this point. So you're not dead to the board, which is good. You're dead to Mark the Lotus, which is bad, but you really can't do anything to it. And that's going to be Mark the Lotus off the draw here for Zalae. And he gets himself all the damage in the world to finish the game off. And Thijs is going to go down 0-2 up against Zalae here. No amount of killing the 1-2 would have helped. So
That Mark of the Lotus was clutch. Man.
granted, it was, but I still think Zalae had a shot. It did, however, look kind of grim. If Thijs got the quest complete, pushed face, found the Bilefins, bounced them once more, let's say, off of a good pickup. That's a lot of 5/5s in the way, and Zalae,
True.
struggles to remove all those. All his minions don't have charge, so this was the stabilization point for Thijs, and it was really on Mark of the Lotus for Zalae here.
Man, what an exciting match, to be honest.
My fury.
It's been a good series so far. The quest rogue has had to do a lot of running around in circles trying to get the work done. Thijs this time, in the mirror match at the very least, picks up a very solid hand. Has the Shadow Step, has the Novice, which means he can ensure that he keeps picking up steam as he digs through the deck. Zalae is going to be looking for that Shadow Step as well. It's pretty important to get it going. It's either that or you get Fireflies, Igneous Openers. Those are also acceptable.
Yep. Alright, well now we'll see the mirror match. Thijs actually has the Shadow Step and a Novus Engineer already. Both players have Mimic Pots, which might be help or detrimental to the entire game. So, ooh.
So prep Mimic Pod right now seems like the line. I mean, it's usually what these hands demand of you when you're in the mirror match, because otherwise you might just fall behind way too far and never catch up.
I agree.
But I guess you could wait one turn, since you can prep Mimic Pod whenever.
Well,
You could technically dagger up and wait, because you've got Igneous next turn, so you're not like dead this turn.
let's assume that you can Mimic Pot into something that you will play this turn. What would it be? Novice Engineer, right? So if you Mimic Pot into Mimic Engineer, you're gonna play it into Novice Engineer, you're gonna play it this turn. Then you get to draw a card and so on. Shadow Steps don't give you that option. And the auto card actually doesn't give you that option, because you will just not play it. Maybe unless you just want to go with a bouncer that will not have an effect that turn. So a Brewmaster or a Ferryman, in case you will have, enough of them already.
He's gonna hold
No
on.
Shadow Step. Okay. So the
He's
plan
looking
is
to complete
to
this with
play
something else, I guess.
with Flame Elementals, I'm guessing. Because he already
Yeah.
has the completion with the Shadow Step and the Brewmaster. If that Ignis Elemental will die.
Yeah, so this is an interesting dynamic that might come up, but the Ignis Elemental is oftentimes frozen for the opponent if you can afford it. So if Zalae, sees this, is going to be tempted to just prevent the opponent's Igneous from being, enabled for now if he has a chance. The issue is he would also love his own Igneous popped, so we'll see how he plays out the turn. I think this might be the Mimic Pod turn, with or without prep. And he finds Brewmaster, which opens up enough bounce for him to complete the quest soon enough.
Alright. Well, I actually forgot that Zalae is running Wisps, and this might be something that pushes his advantage in this mirror match. By having like an additional 5/5 that can be pushed into turn 5 when the quest is completed, or when he just pushes for just basically additional 3 minion that is a 5/5 might be a win or lose here.
And we're going for the freeze, preventing the enemy Igneous from being backstabbed if needed, and also traded away. So for the time being, Thijs is not going to be able to do anything. Plays on the board, gives the opponent Igneous Elemental. So I have no doubt Thijs will try to kill that Glacial Shard to stop it from freezing his board nonstop.
Well, now he has also 2 boars.
Fair enough, so he could just go for boar, youthful, coin, boar, shadow step, boar, get the quest online.
And next turn you just complete the quest.
Okay, but that means you don't play the dagger this turn, which means you can't kill the shard.
Well,
unless you
just
trade away a
play-
boar,
no,
I
no,
guess.
no. I feel like you can trade one boar. Or you just play. What you can do is also play 1 boar. Brewmaster the boar. Coin dagger. Kill the glyph. Kill the glacier shard.
I really like the coin dagger here. That line of play, or at least just making sure you kill the glacial shard, seems like the best line for the matchup. This wisp seems so inoffensive when you look at it, but then you realize what it does to the matchup, and it's pretty ridiculous. Zalae would be able to cheat the quest completion if he wanted with that wisp over 2 turns. Like next turn, he might put it online. It always feels a bit uneasy to give your opponent quest completion before you. So what he's thinking is just get those flame elementals out before my opponent does, because I need to be the first on the board with those 5/5s. So yeah, I think he's gonna pop both, and then set up his own elemental.
Well, both players got 2 flame elementals.
Yeah, this gives
So,
Zalae the
is it-
initiative, though. The freeze that he did on the Igneous from the opponent was really clutch in making sure that he was the first one getting his Igneous on and getting the flame elementals on.
So he has actually 3 out of 4 on the quest right now, right? After he plays the second flame elemental.
Sure,
No,
if he
wait,
plays
that's
the other
still-
one in his hand,
No,
he's gonna
that's
get
2.
3.
That's 2, right?
He needs to bounce them 2 more times before he gets it done.
Yeah. All right. So this gives an option to Thijs because now he has the prep, and that changes a lot of stuff. He has 1
Hey,
out
keep
of
in mind you
4.
saw a shadow step there on the far left.
Yes, exactly. So, okay. You can use the flame elementals. Basically, there's no difference here. The boars have the difference that they will deal damage the same turn. That's like, maybe matters when you actually deal an actual 5 from 29 to 25. This is so tough. Like, what to do here? 2 flame elementals, ferryman, flame elemental, shadow step is one option, or the brewmaster. Probably brewmaster is better.
He's able to set up the double flame elemental shadow step play, but no matter how you spin it, he's not getting his quest this turn. It's going to be completed, granted, but it's not going to be castable.
Yes, but next turn he has prep and double boss. So he's
just got to hope his opponent does not have it. Because if his opponent gets the quest online now, that's going to be a big drawback. So Zalae is looking for something insane. He's got his elemental. He can double balance the Ellies. But the problem is he can't replay them immediately.
So he's 2 out of 4 right now?
I believe that brings him up to 3 after this one. Unless he played a Firefly early that I forget about. But I doubt he did.
Man, I can see.
Oh, he did play a Firefly. Okay, so
okay, well,
idiots.
Yeah, weird.
Or there was a Shadow Step. It might have been the Shadow Step. So that's my bad. I forgot to keep track of.
Dude,
of the
how
flame
do you want to
elemental.
keep track when you don't see that? Like,
well, I should have kept track
check.
of the Shadow Step being played. I feel like I saw that Shadow Step and it was used early.
Yeah, we play a mirror match. We play a mirror match with the same cards. We can't check on the spectator mode how many points on the quest are there. So yeah.
Fair enough. I need a Twitch overlay on this, guys. Let's do it. So we're gonna get that 5-5 online for Zalae. He has the initiative here, which is actually a really big deal, as he gets to dictate the way this game is gonna go, and because he knows that his opponent's trades at most are going to represent 1-for-1s, he's just going face and saying, "All right, your move. How do you beat me here?"
Wait a second there. Does this Glacier Shard change anything?
Well, if Thijs can just let 3 minions go through, he can do it. So you'd have to start with prep quest into shard, because you have to create a counter lethal is the question, right?
Yes.
So prep quest.
It would be possible with a second mimic pod in the charger.
I mean, because he's able to make one trade happen, I think it's still possible because he can freeze 2, and then kill another. So that means he's effectively going to be living at 1. Well, like 1 hit away from death, sorry. Not 1 health, it's going to be at 3. Or 2, depending on if the dagger goes face.
No, the dagger will
which
never
gives
go face.
him...
Probably.
It gives him a small window of opportunity, but I mean a small one. His opponent would have to whiff really hard on everything.
Oh, interesting.
So chooses not to freeze minions instead, but trade with them, as it creates less remaining board presence. And now Zalae can't find any of his chargers. He's got everything left in the deck, I think, charger-wise.
But there's no way of killing Zalae next to him because he's lacking a charger.
Yeah, so you go for Mimic Pod. I think he's counting on the Glacial Shard just getting freezes off, but since it's going to get traded into best case scenario, you can't really set up a lethal here by Thijs. I think that was
a mistake when he
look at that.
Oh, 2 patches. That's also nice. Doesn't really matter, but I think it was actually more important to bounce the Glacier Shard and keep the charge in the hand to threaten lethal next turn. But Zalae,
the ferryman in the end,
Zalae takes it 3-0 in the final match of the day and advances to the LAN finals.
Zalae pretty much steamrolled his way through the last chance qualifier. It wasn't even close. He got his first win decisively, second win decisively, had a rematch against Thijs, crushed him completely. So at the end of the day, it turns out aggro in the meta was the right call. We've seen a lot of that happen in the group stage. The round robin was definitely a good indication of that. We saw mostly aggro decks with a bit of mid-range sprinkled in. So Zalae went 3-2, 3-1, and 3-0 today in a fairly convincing performance. 6-0 came pretty close, though. Every single series he lost was, with 2 losses, and the ones that he won were also 3-2. So everything was very close together for 6-0. I think the Paladin deck not really doing as well as he'd like. The Secret Mage also a little bit off in terms of performance. So Zalae will be joining the other 4 players that qualified, RDU, Stansivka, Naiman, and Nearia, to the live event in Kiev that is going to be happening between the 9th and 11th of June. So there should be updates as to the exact hours this entire event is going to be starting. But these guys will meet each other in Kiev, which is going to be a big event. It happens often. The StarLadder League has been around the Hearthstone scene for a long time now. It's almost a tradition at this point.
Yep.
And players from everywhere basically are going to be attending. We've got Chinese players coming over. So very big player pool overall. All right.
Correct.
On this note, Lothar.
Well, this is
casting the event in Kiev, right?
Yes, I will be doing that. And I just wanted to say this evening today sums up weeks and weeks of streams that we had here, because we had 2 groups with 16 players. Every single player was playing against every single other player, and then we had still the day with the last chance qualifiers. So it was so humongous amount of matches, basically. And now we have the 5 players from Europe that will come. Europe? No, actually 4 players from Europe and 1 American player that will go to Kiev for the final tournament, and that will be an amazing event to watch, because the player pool that we had here in this event was top notch. Every single player was just a top level of Hearthstone competitive play, I would say.
Yeah, and we're also going to have them resubmit new decks for the next portion of the event. So starting on the 9th, they will be able to resubmit decks, adapt to the metagame if they think their decks, are not up to par, which I think a lot of them after the Americas Championships and Europe Championships will feel that way. They're probably going to be revamping some of their strategies. So we should see something a little bit different in the live event in Kiev. On this note, we really wish you guys the best of days here until we get to the 9th of June. Thanks for watching, and have a nice one.
See ya.